Hello, this is Abra Kirk recording a video for History of Textiles 2017. I will be going over the history of wool and its processing. The oldest findings of wool being used by people were found in Çatalhöyük, Turkey, dating from 7,500 to 5,700 before Common Era during the Neolithic times. The felt that was found at this location was at least 8,000 years old. One of the oldest documentations of spun cords is the Venus woman from France. This statue is about 20,000 years old, and you can see clearly a string skirt on her. In Denmark at a burial site, a real preserved string skirt was found on a woman in her coffin estimated from 1370 BC. During the Bronze Age, 1700 to 500 BC. Not until 9000 BC were sheep domesticated in Iraq. Before that time, the fleece on a sheep would be shorter and hairier and not desirable to work with. Over time of selection and breeding the sheep together that had a more desired fleece, do we now have the fleeces that we have today, where we are now able to spin and create much better yarn that makes a much higher quality cloth. Shears were not around till the Iron Age, 1000 BC, so wool was collected before by plucking it off or cutting it off with a sharp stone or sharp bone. Most likely in the beginning, when people processed their fleece, probably just spun in the grease, which means that they did very little to no cleaning of the fiber before going ahead and spinning it into yarn. This is still done today by some people, but most prefer to do a light washing before using it to spin with. After washing is the process of carding or combing, depending on the fiber. The finer the fiber, the more often you will want to use a carder, whereas the thicker the fiber, you may want to use combs. Here are some photos of those two things, and I will demonstrate how to use carders by using my own hand carders. I will be using lightly washed Portland sheep wool. Here it is. The ends still have some dirt on them. Carding helps also clean up some of that as well. Well, now I already started brushing. Another thing that carders are good for are sometimes you have some fibers that were cut a little short while the shearer was cutting from the sheep, and that lowers the quality of your fleece. So sometimes you want to separate the shorter fiber hairs. I will show you an example. This is just a little fluff ball that would be like a pill while you would be spinning, and it would either get stuck in the yarn that you spun and would show up later, or you would be able to pull it out and catch it in time. But either way, it's nice that the carders help you find the mistakes within the fleece so you can clean them out, finding debris, straightening up those ends that I showed you. And it just makes it much easier to spin when it's been separated and combed than when it's still in lock, spinning from the lock, which is also done. And in some cultures, that's how they would do it, or just simply carding with their hands, where they would just separate the fibers by hand which is also effective but not near as effective or as fast as using the hand cards, but you still get the same effect. Pulling the fibers, allowing them to slide past each other in the same direction. Still does a nice job. Spindle whorls come from the Neolithic era, usually made of clay to help add weight and balance while spinning. Other materials were also could be used, such as apples, potatoes, rocks, and other things, and in some cultures, literally just a stick used to spin. Each around the world, there's many different styles of spindles. I will not be going over, but there's really not one kind. However, they all do the same job, making yarn. I will now be demonstrating on a high whorl and low whorl and explaining the differences between those two basic shapes. What I have here is one that's spun with the top upside down, and the other one where the top is on top. So this one has a hook, and it's not necessary for either one to have a hook. This one is the most basic kind. It has no hook whatsoever. I made this one myself. It is made out of a toy wheel, a wooden wheel. So it can be even made out of something as crafty as that. I will demonstrate on the high whorl first. I will be spinning them as drop spindles. And that is how you would spin a high whorl. Here's how you spin a low whorl. Getting it set up. Since I don't have a hook, I have to do loops on the top of the spindle so that the yarn does not come off the spindle, off the staff on the end. Not everyone rolls the spindle off their leg. That's what I do. That's what I was taught. For me, it brings up the most speed. But other people like to use their hands and just spin the spindle with their fingers, which also works fine. And those are two ways of how to spin a spindle. In closing, I will speak briefly on the spinning wheel and do a demonstration. The spinning wheel was possibly invented in China about 1000 AD. Here is an early drawing of a spinning wheel, and it is estimated to be from 1035 AD. I will be spinning on an Ashford Traditional. Here is a timeline on the Ashford Traditional. This company invented this style in 1940, and I have the latest style from 2008. And now I will demonstrate. Currently on my spinning wheel, I have a jumbo flyer. This is a new addition to this particular spinning wheel, one of the newer ones. I can do art yarn with this because I have a larger orifice hook, orifice hole that will allow thicker yarns to go through and can be fed on to here. This was the original flyer and bobbin, quite a bit smaller, but also does a nice job of making yarn, and up to this point I've been using this for quite some time now. I will now demonstrate how to spin. Mine is a 1 treadle spinning wheel. Some people like to have 2. I am currently spinning a Jacob sheep fleece. But what was on the spinning wheel originally was just merino. When spinning, oftentimes a spinner will want to see how well they're spinning, or sample and see how they will like it being plied. So I'm going to add some twist to this. Not feeding on anymore. Allow the yarn to overlap itself, allowing the twist to go into that sample. And here we have a 2-ply yarn that was hand spun. And that allows me to know if I am twisting too much, twisting too little, if it's going to break, if it's strong. And that's just something that a spinner sometimes does just to test how well they're spinning in a moment or how the fleece is doing.